Good evening, fellow entrepreneurs, side hustlers, and small business owners. I'm Ntokozo Hlatshwayo, and welcome once again to an awesome episode of the Business Forecast. That's right, it's the Entrepreneurs Podcast. It's the show that gets you connected to a wide array of SME specialists, successful entrepreneurs, and business people who are all here for one thing and one thing only, to give us advice and help us to get our businesses to the next level. If you're watching the first season of the show, you'll know that we had awesome guests who came through and taught us about a variety of things, from how to get funding from your business to how to market your business, how to build a brand for your business. So on this show, we tackle all these different elements of building your business up. And now we are back after some time off with season 2 of this awesome show. And those who are following us, you'll know that we had a guest lined up for last week, Monday. But unfortunately, we couldn't have that show because of load shedding. And since then, it's been, you guys know, load shedding has been absolutely awful. It's been ruining almost everything for us. And that's what I want to talk about today in the first edition of the new season. I want us to get into load shedding, right? Especially or particularly what load shedding is doing to our small businesses. Look, I'm a small business owner myself. And I've already seen the effects of load shedding on the show itself, but even on my other businesses, I've seen how load shedding has slowed things down. And I just want us to get into right now, some of the effects of load shedding. Maybe you can identify some of them in your business, but more importantly, we're going to go into some of the things that we can do in order to circumvent the effects of load shedding. We are, after all, entrepreneurs. We come up with solutions to problems. And right now, load shedding is a huge problem. And we are the ones who are supposed to be coming up with a solution for it. So those are some of the things I want us to talk about today. The show won't be long today. Just want to have a chat with you guys so that, we keep on having this, constant flow of information and value provision. And if you're watching and you want to add some things that I didn't touch on, please do add, please do comment. And yeah, let's get into it. So I just prepared some things that we can look at here regarding load shedding, right? And these are some of you guys might know some of these things and some of you might not know them, but these are some of the most interesting things that I could find, about load shedding. As we know, or those who didn't know, that load shedding started in 2007. That means, it's been 15 years since we started with load shedding. It's crazy. You think a country that is, boasts as being the most technologically advanced or the most infrastructurally advanced country in the continent, we would have dealt with something like this, over the past 15 years. But, we haven't. And what's worse is that it is expected to carry on for over the next 4 years. And that's crazy. That's crazy. That's a lot of years. And what makes this thing worse, I say, like, what makes it worse is that we just come from the effects of COVID-19. The effects of COVID-19 affected our businesses so much, right? And they increased the unemployment rate and all that stuff. And now we're back here, we're struggling with something else. And that's the problem with load shedding, So let's just look at some of the things, the effects that load shedding has had, just general effects and specifically on SMEs. So firstly, for those who didn't know, load shedding is currently costing South Africa 4 billion rand a day. That is absolutely insane. 4 billion rand a day the country is losing, the GDP is losing because of load shedding. That's crazy, and we know as small business owners are contributors to the GDP a lot. Like, we contribute a lot towards the GDP. So we are probably taking the bulk of that 4 billion rand a day loss. And, also the GDP has decreased by 0.7 in the second quarter of 2022. So that basically means that the rate of production, GDP means gross domestic product. It's the measurement of the rate of production that the country has, a particular country has in a certain given period. So here they're measuring the first period of 2022, and they're saying it has dropped, which means we're not being as productive. And that's, of course, because of the load shedding. And then now let's look at some of the effects that this has had on SMEs, because I've looked at some research, and research was pointing to the fact that SMEs are the most impacted by load shedding, and that's because, unlike large companies, we cannot afford generators. A lot of us cannot afford generators and solar alternatives, and also there's a cost of downtime. And that basically means that when load shedding hits and you're reliant on electricity, there is that downtime. There's that period in which your business is not functioning. And that is what downtime is. Because remember, our business is all about productivity, right? Meaning your ability to produce value and then generate money. So if you're dependent on electricity, which we all are, and electricity is gone for like 4 hours, 6 hours, depending on where you are, depending on the stage we're at, that means you've got a lot of downtime on your business. And I'd like us to start being aware of this, right? Understand that this is how your business is being affected. Because if you don't realize how your business is being affected, you're not going to be able to actually start putting in the solutions that are available out there, right? So there's also some, the cost of business disruptions. And this is basically how now you're costing the losses that you're incurring because of your downtime, right? That means basically, let's say you are a barber, right? You cut hair, and now usually you have like in your salon it's very popular. You've got like 20 people whose hair you cut in a day, or maybe 50 people if you've got more than one barber, and right? You've calculated it, and now load shedding hits, and now you can't cut people's hair anymore, right? And you know that out of that 20 people, maybe you'd be generating about 10,000 in that particular day, or maybe let's take it down a bit, maybe you'll be generating 5,000. Now, because there is no electricity, people are not coming to cut their hair, and even if they are coming, there's nothing you can do. That means you lost out on potentially 5,000 if it was gone for the whole day, or maybe half of that. And that is what we call the cost of your business disruption. It's a cost, right? It's a cost that you're incurring because your normal costs are still continuing. So it means you are incurring costs, you're not generating revenue, so therefore it affects your profitability. But we're going to get to that as well. And then there's also the cost of damaged equipment. This load shedding has also been damaging a lot of people's equipment, because when the electricity goes and comes back, there's usually some complication on some equipment. So again, we've got the cost of damaged equipment. And then of course, we've got a loss of revenue because we need electricity to run our businesses, like the example I just made with the barber, right? Losing revenue for a small business is a huge thing. It's hard enough for us to get customers, right? It's hard enough for us to retain customers. And unlike the established companies, which have generators and stuff like that, we don't have those things, right? We're still trying to develop that relationship with our clients. And that's what really sucks, because now you're not generating revenue and you're potentially losing clients. And that's another adverse effect because of load shedding. And then I like this one, word, not that I like it, but it's an important one, right? I want people to understand this. Increased losses since employees are not working yet have to be paid, right? So if you've got employees in your business, right, and you have to pay them a monthly salary, right? You pay them a monthly salary because you know your rate of production. You know that when you function 8 days a week, or sorry, 8 hours in a day, you're going to generate 10,000, right? Or you're going to generate 20,000. And out of that 20,000, you're going to use 10,000 to pay your employees. But now, when there's no electricity and you're not generating any revenue, that means you're no longer generating that 20,000. Yet at the end of the month, you still have to pay your employees, right? So now you've got 10,000 costs that you cannot cover because of the loss of revenue. And that's what we mean that your profit margin decreases because your expenses remain the same, even though your revenues are decreasing. And for me personally, I want someone to do something about this, right? Because we know this thing is going to happen, right? Whether we come up with a solution where we save money, or there's some sort of a thing that we pay into, and we're always going to have some sort of access to electricity, but we have to do something about this because this is our livelihood, right? But because a lot of these guys cannot end up paying their employees, what usually happens is people start losing jobs, right? You start laying off your employees because you cannot pay them, or your rate of production is not the same as before, so you don't need them. And of course, that in turn leads to more unemployment, as though it was not already bad at the 45% that we got to after, youth unemployment that we got to after COVID. But now, load shedding is even adding to that. This is bad. This is horrible. This should not continue in our countries. And, also this is another point that, because of load shedding, most often deadlines are missed, right? I would attain to this, right? Deadlines are missed because I have to, let's say I have to do something, a business analysis report for a client, and there's no electricity and there's no access to Wi-Fi. I end up getting delayed in my ability to produce the work, and that's a problem. Clients are looking for their work, and also this also causes them to get delayed in paying. Now, if we getting delayed in being paid, now we can't pay our costs, then we cannot pay our costs, then it all just tumbles, right? And this is where I know a lot of you find yourself in. I just want you to know that you're not alone. We're sympathizing with you. This is what is happening to a lot of small business owners, and this is what we're trying to say. Let's recognize the problem. Let's realize how big it is, and then let's come together to form solutions. Because I really do feel, if you've been watching my past shows and following me, that the cure to what to the problem of SMEs in our country is going to have to be collaboration, right? And collaboration is something that even the big corporates are using. We had a guest by the form of Lauren Fleiser, who spoke about an innovative ecosystems where, or rather innovation ecosystems, where it's a system that even large corporations are using, where companies are no longer working in silos on their own. They're now trying to collaborate with other businesses in order to maximize their productivity and minimize their costs. And this is something that we're going to need to do. We're going to need to come together to fight this load shedding. But, I want us to be aware of the problem so that next we can come up with solutions and we should solve through which we can solve them, right? And then here are some direct impacts, that come as a result of load shedding. As you know, there's failed Wi-Fi, which is absolutely horrible. Imagine going 6 hours straight without Wi-Fi. You needed to work, you needed to send your reports, you needed to communicate with clients, you needed to have your Zoom meetings. Without Wi-Fi, I mean, I think it's a bit weird or funny in a bad way, in that COVID-19 came and introduced us. We got introduced to virtual meetings, and it got so dependent on virtual meetings. Now we can't even have those virtual meetings because of load shedding, right? I have so many virtual meetings every week, and I can't have them now because it's load shedding. Because sometimes when I'm available, my client is not available. When they're available, I'm not available because of load shedding. And loss of Wi-Fi is a big one, and it's really, really horrible. And there are ways, of course, to circumvent it if you've got a generator and stuff like that. But that's one of the things that the load shedding comes with. And also, I mean, even if you do have your generator, it also does affect network. So you might not even have proper network, even if you do have your Zoom meeting. And then there's also poor staff morale. I mean, it's hard enough to get people motivated to work on a good day. Imagine when the electricity goes off. I remember, a few years ago when I was employed, I would see what it would do to us, right? We come into work, we want to work, and then all of a sudden there's load shedding. And to just get into that mindset of working during load shedding, it's not happening. And even afterwards, when the electricity is back, we've lost that morale, we've lost that momentum, and we don't function or operate as well as we otherwise could. And that's another awful thing. And of course, faulty ATMs. There's some businesses here, and no, you take cash and your clients cannot even pay you because the ATMs are down because of load shedding. So again, these are some of the direct impacts, loss of planning, something you planned your week, you planned your day, and your day can no longer go the way you planned it. It's quite frustrating. And then, of course, the inability to trade. We've spoken about the fact that people are no longer able to come and buy from you because, it's closed, or maybe you need electricity, like somebody who's a barber. So things like that. And then, of course, broken equipment, we've spoken about that. And also bad traffic, because, I mean, the traffic lights go off. So there's so much bad traffic during load shedding. And that's another awful thing that happens. And of course, for some businesses, there's compromised security. Some people rely on security systems that are electrical, right? And when there's load shedding, it's very compromised. You've got some valuable equipment where you stay, and then it's guarded. But now, because of load shedding, your equipment is no longer guarded. And these are some of the direct impacts that have been identified through my research. And these are the things that we need to. I mean, I subscribe to the adage that says, to know the problem is half the cure. So the reason why I want us to why I'm doing this episode is for us to know the problem, the extent of the problem, to break down exactly the impacts of load shedding on our businesses, because we know it's not going anywhere, right? They told us about 4 more years it's going to go up, it's going to go on. So let's plan from now. And the first step of planning is always looking and identifying the problem, understanding the problem, breaking it down into its base components so that you can come up with solutions that will help. So for each and every single one of these direct impacts, we gotta now start going back and saying, how do we deal with the Wi-Fi issue? How do we deal with the morale issue? How do we deal with the faulty ATM issue? Do we come up with an alternative cash system? But these are some of the things I want you to look at. And when you think about solutions and alternatives to help your business out of this load shedding, of surviving the load shedding times, these are some of the things you'd want to look at that will help you out in order, for you to for your business to survive through this time. Or when we come together and we start brainstorming, these are some of the points that we can look at. And then lastly, of course, there are some solutions that we can look at, and I always like to say, if there's anyone, as you can see in the image there is light at the end of the tunnel, right? There has to be light at the end of the tunnel, especially with us as entrepreneurs, because we're problem solvers. By nature, if there's a problem, we're the ones who have to solve it. So this is a problem, and instead of complaining, we need to innovate our way out. We need to create our way out. We need to create system structures, technologies, innovations that are going to get us out of here. Stop relying on government, stop relying on the status quo and believing that because things they are the way they are, we can't do anything about it. No, we can do something about it. That is the reason why we exist, to impact our communities. So that's one thing I want to say. One of the things that I'd like you to start doing, and I believe this is going to help you out for your future, right? So there's some losses that your business is incurring right now, and I want you to start reporting those losses in your books, right? As load shedding losses, right? So an example would be, for example, like I said, if you own a barber shop and you've got usually make 20,000 over an 8-hour day, and now you can only work maybe for 4 hours and you make 10,000, right? So you didn't. It's not like you made 10,000. You lost 10,000 because of load shedding, right? So if you just record that you made 10,000, you're not really reflecting the productivity potential of your business, and your books therefore might be understated. So what you want to do is that you want to go into your books and record it. Yes, I know right now maybe it might not be recognized by some people, but if you want to use those books to actually remind yourself of what happened over the years and why your revenue dropped or why your profitability dropped, or maybe you want to hand your financials to a bank or to a potential investor, you want to put even maybe a final page in there with load shedding there. You put it in that, look, this is because of load shedding. We lost 20,000 or 50,000 or 200,000 in the year 2022 because of load shedding, right? So it's not a reflection on our potential or productivity rate. It's a reflection of load shedding, right? So what that's going to do, it's going to put something in your head. It's going to make you realize how much you ought to be making, and also it's going to, I believe, more accurately reflects the performance of your books. Of your business. Remember, financials are there to reflect fairly the performance and the financial standing of your business. So your business is not really underperforming. You need to report that it's because of load shedding. And I believe that's going to help you in the future. One, because the person you're handing it to will realize that you get enough ingenuity to do such a thing, but also because you're not going to be, your financials are not going to be understated. And the next one there is that you want to develop a model without the load shedding losses. What I mean by that is, yes, right now your bank is reflecting that you've got this amount of money, but I want you to create a report again through financial reporting. Of course, again, if you need help with that, just comment, and I believe I can connect you with someone who can help you with that. But what I mean by that is you write down, you use maybe the past 6 months of how you were operating before load shedding hit this badly, and then you continue it as though you were operating that way, right? And what that means is you're reflecting how your business would have done or how your financial position would look like if you didn't have load shedding. Again, internally, it helps you to boost your own morale, to say you're not failing, right? Your business is not a bad business. This is how much your business technically is supposed to be making had it not been for this thing called load shedding. So that's something that I would, encourage you to do. And if you're wondering how to do it, you can join me. I'm going to be speaking more about this on, the Hope Alive radio show at 1 p.m. on Mondays. I'm always on there. I'm going to go into more detail in terms of how to do this, but I'm also just going to release more videos in terms of how to do financial modeling, especially when you want to reflect such things accurately. But this is something that I believe will help. And then also, this is a big one, sharing of resources. Earlier we spoke about the fact that we as small business owners probably cannot afford to buy a generator or to have solar power. But you know what? what one person can't do, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 people can do, right? When one person can't afford, maybe 20 people can afford. This is where business networking comes into play. This is where coming together. And then the last point there is forming cooperatives. Cooperatives are businesses that come together to help each other out, in terms of their production processes, to make them help each other become more productive and reduce costs for each other. And this is one of the things that I believe we have to do. If you know that your business needs electricity, right? You want to be sharing resources with businesses around you, not necessarily your competitors, but businesses maybe within your vicinity, and say, all right, this generator costs this much money. We can actually find a way in which we can, use it, and obviously I wouldn't want you to break any laws in terms of connectivity, but I think you get my point, right? There are ways in which we can come together and share our resources in order to help each other out. I mean, one of the ideas that I had for my community was that, pretty soon, I'm gonna call a meeting between the SMEs around here, and we're gonna put money together. We're gonna buy a generator. Then we're gonna use some of my space. I do have some open space, and I'm gonna open it up, as office space, so to speak, for everyone who needs it when it's load shedding, right? So what's gonna happen is the generator is going to be running. You just come here to the premises, you come with your laptop, you have your meetings, you do whatever you're doing. That is an example of what I mean by coming together, forming cooperatives, because we have to come together to beat this thing. But there's other ways, we spoke about the direct impacts of load shedding. So if we break down all of those points, we'll be able to probably see ways in which we can solve these problems, by coming together. Maybe you can come together to address the issue. Like the one I came up with was to address the issue of failed Wi-Fi, right? We can still use my Wi-Fi as long as we came together to buy the generator, and you come through and you use my space. Poor staff morale. Maybe we can have, staff, gatherings where we encourage each other. I mean, there's many things we can do. All I'm saying is that we are the ones who are supposed to be doing something about this. And I believe that we can do something about it. So yeah, that is all that I have for you guys today. I really hope this video was informative and that it really helped you. And I, of course, like I told you, I am working on something so that I don't ever want us to be in a position where we can't release a show because, of load shedding. I'm always thinking of alternatives because as a small business owner, I'm always thinking that way. And I hope I encourage you to do the same with today's show. Yeah, so that's all I have for you today. Like I said, it's not going to be as long as usual, but if you have any comments, any questions, again, you couldn't go live today, but I'll make sure that I'll get to all of your questions and all of your comments. And yeah, so that's all from me, Ntokozo. So until next time, till our next show, our next episode, keep pushing, keep grinding, and make sure you do catch me on the Hope Alive radio show every Monday at 1 p.m. It's an online radio station. I'm there every week talking for 30 minutes, releasing powerful business nuggets, most of which are coming from the show here. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you there. Keep pushing, keep grinding, stay busy, and I wish you all the best on your business endeavors. Thank you.